Is it a burning Musk rocket? Is it a burning Musk truck? Omens of things to come. 2025 started with a Cybertruck burning outside of Trump Tower, leading to some of the dumbest takes in history. Like one of Musk fans writes, Elon's decision to build a Cybertruck like a tank may have saved many lives in Las Vegas today. Imagine how much worse the explosion would have been. Odd, I thought it was just fireworks going off in the back of the truck. Yeah, those sound like pretty convincing fireworks going off in the truck there. Imagine how much worse the explosion would have been if all those in the vicinity, if it were any other vehicle. Or even better, imagine if there were no vehicle around the fireworks at all. I mean, I remember something like that on New Year's in Prague a few years back, and my mind's a little fuzzy, but I think the entire city centre was destroyed by those devastating explosions. If only there had been a Cybertruck to contain all these devastating explosives, Prague could have been saved. To which Musk responds, Cybertruck is the worst possible choice for a car bomb, as its stainless steel armor will contain the blast better than any other commercial vehicle. Leading to some awesomely sarcastic replies like, the pineapple is the worst possible shape for a grenade, as its stainless steel armor will contain the blast better than any other shape. Yep, looks like it's going to be a hell of a year for Elon Musk. Going within 24 hours from telling people to F themselves in the face, to begging them to be nicer and more positive on Twitter, to a couple of days later telling someone to F themselves tard. That was in response to someone saying that he was turning into the biggest purveyor of disinformation on Twitter. Yeah, purveyor of disinformation or just a straight-up moron? It's a tough call. Now there'll be people who say, but Elon Musk is the most popular guy on Twitter with almost 200 million followers. That's like almost the entire population of America. Just think of that massive reach. And I'm like, I'm not so sure I buy that. In that if you actually scroll down and see how many of those people are willing to turn up and like what he says, you're down in the 4,000 number or 3,000 here. And you think about that, 200 million subscribers and 3,000 likes. That's roughly 1 in 100,000 people liked what he had to say after some 3 hours. That's like turning up in a city and saying, everyone in Denver or Seattle is subscribed to my Twitter feed, and only being able to find 10 people in the entire city who say they will like what you have to say. And sure, after 24 or so hours, the numbers are somewhat better. 100 people in a city of 1 million who will actually say that they like your post. Like this one, after 21 hours, where Musk says 100% that why is Labour refusing to launch a national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal? Oh, really? You mean the grooming gang scandal that broke in 2012? That's what...
Just your reflections on the actual grooming scandal itself. This is something that's been covered, for 10, 15 years by those prepared to look?
Yes, and, the idea that the mainstream media had no idea about this. The story broke on the front page of the Times. Not exactly the most obscure publication in Britain.
Sir Andrew Norfolk.
And here we are, some 10 years on, almost all of which was spent under a different Conservative government, during which time Musk said absolutely diddly squat about any of this. Presumably because he was okay with this sort of thing under a Conservative government.
And on the other hand, Boris Johnson. £60 million I saw was being spaffed up the wall on, some investigation into historic child abuse and all this kind of thing. Well, what on earth is that going to do to protect the public now?
And then only when the government changed did they decide now was the time to become all pearl-clutchy and moral outraged. And
Nadine Dorris?
Yeah. I can assure you that the entire time I was cabinet, this was never discussed.
So the same people who didn't implement those recommendations, calling for another one, I'm asking you, isn't that the definition of political opportunism?
Yes. Yes.
virtue signalling about all these terrible things that happened under the last government some 10 years ago.
Aren't they? That's what inquiries are for, right? The truth. But you have to ask yourself, is Elon Musk really interested in the truth?
Really, Michael, I mean, I feel like I've been banging on about this an awful lot, but when we were covering this in the Times 10, 12 years ago, whatever it was, we worked so hard at getting this exactly right, getting the terminology exactly right, getting the facts exactly right. And you look at the way it sort of then spreads out across the internet, thanks to people like Tommy Robinson, thanks to people like Jordan Peterson in Canada, and you kind of think, why did we bother? Nobody cares. People just interpret this in the way they want anyway. It does turn into the racist smear that we worked so hard to make it not be. No one actually does care about the victims in the end anyway. You wonder why all this work is even done.
As Musk said, you are the media now.
Then he's saying that Gordon Brown told police forces not to prosecute these gangs because the girls were asking for it. That's a lie. He then tweets a list of all the MPs that voted against the deportation of foreign rapists. That's a lie. He tweets that Keir Starmer once called Donald Trump a racist. That's a lie.
Post what is happening. No, you, like Musk, must show how outraged you are about things that happened 17 years
In
ago.
2008, an 11-year-old girl came to the attention...
Like maybe you should get really outraged about the Deepwater Horizon's oil spill and blame it on who's ever in power at the moment. Or the Duke University faux sex thesis controversy.
To people who have been persuaded over the last 5 years or so that the mainstream media hasn't covered any stories and that the only people who've noticed anything happening in the world are people sitting in their bedrooms sending messages to each other. It's an amazing feat of deception.
It's been an interesting few months for me, going from one of the only people who's been calling out Musk's bullshit since the phony Stark days, it's almost a decade ago now, to having almost 100 videos or so calling out Musk's bullshit per day, albeit mostly on his crazy political escapades.
Fucking Musk. He's been living rent-free in my brain for over a week now. He's burnt onto the back of my retina. He's very suddenly become omnipotent. Yet every time I shut my eyes, I've just got his face. Yep, there he is.
I mean, the level of trolling is truly, next level. I mean, as a vaporware salesman, Musk was expert. But the symbiosis he's found with trolling the mainstream media is just on a different level. And it seems to be an arrangement that fits everyone perfectly. Musk says outrageous things. Media has lots of outrageous things to report on. And when I say that his trolling levels are world-class...
He's very suddenly become omnipotent. Yet every time I shut my eyes, I've just got his face. Yep, there he is.
I went home to see my family for Christmas. My aunt, who doesn't even have a smartphone or internet access, knew all about Musk and his attention whore antics. The thing is that people burn out on trolls like this pretty quick. It basically hits the boy who cried wolf syndrome. And Musk's current formula of simply put out hundreds of inflammatory tweets per day, 10 of which will dominate the news cycle, like this effort here. So California's in the middle of some of the worst forest fires for this millennia. Musk wants to use that to try and sell more Cybertrucks. Let's see how he does, shall we? Yes, please be careful. In some areas, there is a non-zero risk of armed looters. Yeah, right, Musk. Armed looters are the #1 problem in LA at the moment. Muppet. Cybertruck panels are bulletproof to subsonic projectiles, handguns, shotguns, and Tommy guns, but the glass is not. Sure, LA is on fire at the moment, but you know what'll really help you out is dropping $100,000 on a truck that's not bulletproof and will lose $20,000 of value in its first 6 months. Hell, it's all but a certainty at the moment that more people are being cremated inside their Cybertrucks than saved by the bulletproof doors.
We're learning more about the truck's design and how difficult it can be for people inside to escape when seconds count. Piedmont's police chief said that when emergency crews arrived, the truck was fully engulfed in flames when that vehicle crashed. People who drive or ride in Teslas may not realize they could have a hard time getting out of their vehicle if it catches fire. That's because when the battery power is lost, people have to use a manual release to open those doors.
Say 2 men were inside when they noticed smoke coming out of the front of their Tesla 3. They say they pulled over but could not open the doors. They were trapped inside. We're told one of them broke a window and both were able to get out without any injuries.
But in the Cybertruck, Tesla's website shows the front door release is in front of the window switches. The back door release is in the side door pocket underneath a panel. Michael Brooks of the Center for Auto Safety in Washington, D.C. told us there are currently no federal standards for where those emergency releases have to be located.
The crash of a Tesla Cybertruck in Piedmont last month that killed 3 young people is raising new questions about the safety features of the vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Musk didn't think they would need door handles, but did make sure the doors would be bulletproof.
Really absurd to expect humans in situations where there's a fire and seconds matter to be able to look in their owner's manual and figure out how they're going to open a manual door release that's hidden.
So make sure to duck if you see anyone wielding a gun. This is not fiction. Yeah, let me guess. Next, he's going to offer a single month of free internet coverage via Starlink to all of the people in the area, just like he did with the hurricane. You know, it's also the standard promotional package for Starlink. Hey, he's a billionaire. Of course he's going to see human suffering as an opportunity to make a profit. Because the only thing more useful than a $100,000 bulletproof death trap after your house is burnt down is a single free month of internet access. You know, once they've reconnected the power.
And I think we should have got on to him early on when he quite gratuitously called someone who was trying to help those boys in Thailand a paedophile. An American court let him off, the pedo guy. I think he thought from then on, I can say anything I like. It doesn't have to be true. It's better if it's not true. And no one will stop me. And that's what's happened.
Well, actually, some of us have been calling out his bullshit for some time now. Like from when he was being universally heralded as the Techno Messiah. Now, while Musk's been tweeting about 100 or so times per day to feed the media cycle, you might be wondering what's happened to his claim of actually achieving something, you know, in the real world. Something about cutting $2 trillion out of the federal budget.
Yes. How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
Yeah!
Yes.
$2 trillion.
Let's see what great activity there has been on the Department of Grifting Elon. Department of Government Efficiency, the doggy department. He tweeted once on the 10th of January, which is a few days ago now, and then before that on the 7th of January, so 3 days between tweets there, and another 2 days before that, and then it was an entire week. It was the 28th of December that it tweeted, and before that, the 26th of December, which immediately got fact-checked on Twitter. So it's tweeting, what, about once, twice a week, that sort of thing? I'm not exactly certain I see a path between whining once or twice a week on Twitter and cutting $2 trillion out of the federal budget. I mean, I'm no economist, but I'm pretty sure that's not going to work. The dodgy department is going nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. At which point, Musk's only leverage that he has is that he gave Trump $250 million or so to get elected. But this is past tense. Musk can now do nothing for Trump because Trump can't run for office again because of term limits. And let's just remind ourselves of what this was like beforehand. When Elon Musk came to the White House and asked for help on his many subsidized projects, whether it's electric cars that don't drive long enough, driverless cars that crash, or rocket ships to nowhere, without which subsidies he'd be worthless, and telling me how he was a big Trump fan and a Republican, I could have said drop to your knees and beg, and he would have done it. Yeah, the lame duck and the billionaire. Gonna need the popcorn for this one. Then you realise that Musk is only the richest man on earth for the same reason that Elizabeth Holmes was a multi-billionaire.
It's perhaps the greatest fraud in the history of the Silicon Valley tech bomb.
Because people believed in her vaporware promises. And the second they don't, things go differently.
The company that she started at 19 is valued at $9 billion. You own over 50% of it, right? Congratulations on that.
Forbes magazine has downgraded the net worth of Elizabeth Holmes from $4.5 billion to nothing.
Yeah, Musk isn't rich because his companies make lots of profit. In fact, none of his companies actually make much in the way of profit. You know, once you take away the government subsidies and all that sort of thing. No, Musk is only rich on paper for the exact same reason that Elizabeth Holmes was rich on paper. The second people lose faith in the Theranos-style valuations of his companies,
How difficult it can be for people inside to escape when seconds count.
Musk is a bucket of cold water away from being the poorest man on the planet. The doggy department will be a disaster, an absolute unmitigating failure. Musk has alienated his customer base. Well, actually, at this point, he's alienated pretty much everyone with his online trolling antics. In fact, the only people he's not pissed off seem to be the Russians and the Chinese. For some strange reason, the only governments on the entire face of the planet that Musk can find nothing wrong with. Probably because they're so in line with their interpretation of free speech. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how this is going to hit the ground, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be a perfect metaphor for the year Musk is about to have. I wonder what's in the news today. Well, the New Glenn rocket made it to orbit on its first attempt. I wonder how Starship's doing on its seventh flight, where it's attempting to not even make orbit. So that's what $300 million of taxpayers' money looks like when it's blown up in less time than it takes to eat a pizza.